I grew up in Nana's kitchen with a pencil behind my ear. She taught me how to label leftovers and bank folders, how to keep a little log next to the phone, how to write who took the casserole dish and when it should come back. Paper remembers, she'd say, tapping the margin like a metronome. I think I chose compliance as a career because I fell in love with the feeling of a neat line under a solid fact. My Aunt Lydia fell in love with the feeling of being in charge. She's the older sister who speaks in announcements and parks across two spaces because the lines are faded. Her son Mark is the family's future entrepreneur who always has a pitch and never has a receipt. When Nana was alive, she told me, more than once, more than twice, that the house would be mine when she was gone. You'll take care of it, you'll take care of the garden, she said, as if I could inherit the azaleas as a job. I never saw the actual documents, but she talked about a simple will and keeping things out of squabbles. After the funeral, Lydia took the house keys out of the bowl by the door like she was doing housekeeping. We'll start clearing this weekend, she said. It's not good to let a place sit. She made a list of what she called community items. The piano, the antique clock, the sewing machine, and said she'd allocate fairly. When I asked how fairly worked, she said by need, and looked at Mark, who nodded solemnly like he had discovered need just then. Because I am who I am, I enrolled in our county's public recorder alert for Nana's property parcel. It's basically a subscription that pings you if anyone records something against an address. I figured I'd get spam. Instead, a notice popped up that a new document had been indexed against Nana's parcel. The preview description read like a plot twist. Transfer on death deed / quitclaim in favor of Mark. My stomach did that roller coaster drop. I called the recorder's office for copies. They said I could request a PDF set. I paid the fee and waited. When the documents arrived, they smelled like a scanner. The deed was a clean, too clean, page with a short form signature block. My grandmother's full name, a swooping signature I didn't recognize, and a notary stamp from a mobile notary I'd never heard of. I printed it and put it next to cards and recipes Nana had signed. I'm not a forensic analyst, but I can read slant and pressure. Nana's NS were always a little left-leaning and heavy on the downstroke. The deed signature was upright like a student's practice sheet. I reminded myself that elderly signatures change and that scan dates aren't signature dates. So I opened a fresh page in my personal case file and wrote, "Suspicious, not proof." Then I looked at the notary section. The seal number was legible. The notary's commission had an expiration window that made sense, but the acknowledgement wording was casual. The line for the signer's ID listed a state ID number off by a digit from Nana's last renewal card, the copy I had scanned for her Medicare file. The address for the signer was the house, which, fine. The address for the grantee, Mark, was different from the one he currently lives at, and it contained the wrong apartment letter. Every anomaly could be explained. None of them sang honest. I requested the notary's journal entry. In my state, notaries are required to keep a log of their acts, date, type, signer, ID. The notary replied that she does not typically share journal copies without a subpoena. She offered to confirm in writing that she performed a service for my grandmother at a private residence, and that 2 witnesses were present. She would not name the witnesses. She also spelled my grandmother's middle name wrong in the very sentence meant to assure me. I ordered the scan properties on the PDF from the recorder's site. Metadata snapshot, created after Nana's date of passing, modified the same week. I know scanning dates are often when the recorder digitizes a document, not when the document was signed. Still, the timing looked like someone sprinted toward a finish line that moved when Nana died. I drove by the house. The porch light was on in daylight. A neighbor told me Lydia had been in and out with a clipboard. I asked if anyone had seen a notary. The neighbor shrugged. "I saw the cousin once with 2 young guys and a folding table," she said. She thought it was for paperwork. I asked when. She gave me a month and a shrug. It was the same month Nana had been in a rehab facility after a fall. Elder facility log, visit summary. Nana was signed in and out of meals every day that month, with an exception when my mother took her to a doctor's appointment. The day the deed was signed, according to the recorder index, the facility log shows her at bingo by the window, Not at home with a mobile notary. I called a local title company not to get anything, just to ask what a normal person should know. I explained carefully that there was a potential forged deed and that I wasn't asking for legal advice. The title officer spoke in a tone I recognize from my own job, the one that belongs to people who have seen the same mistake once a week for years. She said, in human words, that if someone tries to sell or encumber property with a clouded title, a title hold can pause things while people who own pens and responsibilities sort it out. Clouded means there's an unresolved dispute on the chain of ownership. She used a phrase I wrote down, notice of adverse claim. She said to bring facts, not family speeches. I did a county recorder search for chain of title. I pulled the last few years. I found the will that was probated when my grandfather passed. I found a record of a mortgage that had been satisfied. And then I found the strange new thing with Mark's name. On that new thing, one of the initial boxes for the parcel number had been transposed. On the recording cover sheet, my aunt's phone number appeared in the return to section in messy handwriting. One digit had been overwritten. The return address for the document was Mark's current apartment, the one he didn't list on the deed itself. I printed every page and filed it behind a green divider labeled chain. I tried a soft talk with Lydia because my mother asked me to. We sat at the dining table where Nana used to spread puzzle pieces like a second language. I told Lydia I subscribed to the recorder alerts and that I had seen the deed. She smiled in that pitying way she does when she's about to put someone in a box. Your grandmother came to her senses, she said. She thought of Mark's future. You're doing fine. She said future like a coupon code. I asked about the notary. She said, a nice girl, a friend of a friend. I asked for the witnesses' names so I could tell the county everything was clean. She said, don't be dramatic. She also said the line that decided me, we'll do the house clearing first. Paper can come later. Paper just slows things down. I could hear Nana in my skull. Paper remembers. I stood, said I would not take part in clearing until the paper was right, and left. Mark texted me that night with a link to a real estate listing for a starter home, in a new development and a winky face. Manifesting, he wrote. I didn't respond. I built a timeline. I requested the notary's journal again, this time by certified letter citing the statute that gives interested parties access. I contacted the recorder to ask whether the document had passed basic acceptance checks and whether there were any pending requests to correct. They said they don't validate truth, only form. They also suggested I file a fraud alert with their office so any future recordings would ping the attorney's inbox I listed. I did that. Jade, the friend who translates panic into tasks, came with me to the house with a clipboard and a phone camera. We photographed rooms. We took inventory of community items and personal effects. I left my grandmother's monogram jewelry box in the same drawer she kept it and wrote its location on a sheet titled property to be logged. Then I sent a group text to Lydia, Mark, and my mother. Per Nana's wishes and out of respect for her estate, please do not remove items from the home until inventory is complete and title is clear. I'll share the list. Lydia replied with, this is not how families do it. I replied with, it's how this one is going to. I also called our home insurer to let them know the property was now unoccupied and in probate. The agent on the phone told me, in plain English, that unoccupied homes are candy for people who like to sue, and to watch who has keys. I looked at my copy of the keys and pictured Lydia's ring full of decorative keychains. I scheduled a locksmith for later in the week, pending advice from the attorney I'd consulted. He said I could change locks if I could show I was protecting estate property and that I gave everyone written notice plus access by appointment. He sent me a template notice of lock change for security with a line that offered supervised entry to retrieve personal essentials until the court appointed a personal representative. It was bureaucratic and boring and made me feel like my heart was standing on both feet again. The last piece of the puzzle came from the rehab facility. I asked gently for a letter stating that Nana had been on site the week the deed was allegedly signed at her home. They can't disclose medical details, but they wrote a simple sentence. Resident did not leave premises on weekdays except for one medical appointment. No off-site visitors were authorized in room. That doesn't mean someone couldn't have set up a folding table in a lobby and waved a paper under her hand. It does mean the private residence claim smells wrong. I filed it under witness statement even though it's a log. Paper remembers. Here's what I have in a list my brain can breathe with. A county recorder search. A new deed in Mark's favor. Parcel number transposed in one field. Return to shows Lydia's contact. A metadata snapshot. PDF created and uploaded after Nana passed. Likely scan date, but still relevant as timing. A notary journal request. Notary refuses to share names of witnesses. Spells Nana's middle name wrong. ID number off by a digit from my copy. A elder facility log. Shows Nana was not at home on the alleged signing day. A title company email. Explains cloud on title and notice of adverse claim. Encourages facts not fights. A inventory photos. Contents of house pre-clearing. A insurer notice. Unoccupied status noted. Recommendation to control keys. Lydia wants to clean this weekend with a rented truck. She insists we can sort the paperwork later. Mark is suddenly full of helpful ideas about how to refresh the space, as if paint can launder ink. My mother hates conflict and keeps asking whether there's a way to split what cannot be split, which is ownership. I'm preparing two things. First, a notice of adverse claim to send to the title company and recorder, so any attempt to sell, borrow against, or transfer the house runs into a bright orange cone. Second, a lock change with supervised access so that nothing disappears during a family tidy. I will tape the notice to the inside of the front door and email it to everyone, offering 2-time windows for supervised entry to pick up personal medications, heirlooms clearly belonging to them, and the like while we do a real inventory for the estate. Then I plan to file a report for suspected document fraud with the Property Crimes Unit, so there's a number to attach to the title hold. It will be dry and kind and full of nouns. I can hear the chorus already. Cold, calculating, ungrateful. Lydia has a talent for turning boundaries into insults. She will tell Facebook I stole the house that was meant for the family, by which she means her definition of family, by which she means Mark and whoever claps. I don't want a war. I want Nana's paper to mean what it says. If the will says it's mine, I'll take that responsibility and all the boring words that come with it: roof, insurance, taxes, probate. If the documents prove something else, I'll respect that. But I won't let a PDF with a wobble in the middle of Nana's name decide. So, Ita, if I change the locks now and report the forged-looking deed instead of letting my aunt and cousin clear the house while we wait for paper to catch up? TLDR. After Nana died, my aunt and cousin moved fast to handle her house. A recorder alert showed a fresh deed to cousin Mark with a mobile notary. The signature looks wrong, the notary won't share witnesses, and the facility log says Nana wasn't home that day. A title officer explained, cloud on title. I'm preparing a notice of adverse claim and a lawful lock change with supervised access. AITA for putting legal brakes on family cleanup? Update 1. I treated this like a file at work. 1 tab for facts, 1 for noise. When I separate them, patterns stop pretending to be coincidences. First, I escalated the document hunt. I sent the mobile notary a certified letter citing the statute that allows an interested party to request copies of the journal entry for a specific act. I included the recorder's document number and a prepaid envelope. She replied by email, I generally do not provide journal copies without a subpoena. However, I can confirm I notarized your grandmother's instrument with 2 witnesses present. The note had 3 tells. She misspelled Nana's middle name, again. She called a deed an instrument like she just Googled a synonym, and she put the meeting at a private residence without naming which one. I asked, plainly, for the witness names. She offered initials only. Notary journal, redacted. Signer. Nana's name misspelled. ID. State ID XX. Witness 1, M. Witness 2, S. Location, private residence. I compared M to the scrawl Mark uses when he signs for packages. The loop and tail looked like cousins. Not proof. Smoke. My next call was the county recorder. I asked 2 simple questions in non-lawyer English. Is there a way to signal a dispute so no one can quietly refinance or sell? And do you ever want copies of what I'm seeing? The clerk said they don't adjudicate truth, but they do record affidavits and notices that, once indexed against a parcel, show up in a title search. She reminded me that a lease pendens requires a lawsuit, which I don't have yet, but a notice of adverse claim/affidavit of facts can still put a bright sticky note on the property history. She suggested I attach exhibits and keep it factual. No adjectives, no family therapy. The title company's risk officer, different person than before, wrote back in human words, "Title company email, if we see your affidavit recorded, we will not insure a transfer or new loan until the cloud is resolved. That doesn't decide ownership. It keeps the file on the desk until a judge or mutual release clears it." Translation: no magic, just breaks. I added a nerdier piece to the pile. I had saved the recorder's PDF and did a quick metadata peek. Metadata snapshot V2. Producer, Scanmaster3XX. Create. After Nana's passing. Modify. Same week. Fonts. Embedded. XMP shows template fields. These words do not prove anything about when Nana signed. They do raise an eyebrow about when someone scanned/assembled the pages. I also printed the first page on glossy paper and held it under a bright lamp. I could see faint yellow microdots, the kind many color laser printers leave like a fingerprint. I'm not a lab. I just know dots don't appear on documents drawn up by hand at the kitchen table years ago. I sent a short, boring letter to the eldercare facility. Please provide a non-clinical letter stating whether resident Nana left premises the week of relative month, and whether any external witness visitation was recorded. They replied with a single paragraph on letterhead. Facility letter. Resident remained on premises during weekdays. No off-site visits recorded other than one medical appointment. No external notarizations authorized. That's not a courtroom slam dunk. It is a factual broom sweeping away the private residence signing story. Because money opens doors, I called the home insurer and reported the property as unoccupied pending probate. The agent's advice was refreshingly blunt. Empty houses invite aunties with trucks. Limit keys. Document everything. I logged keys and scheduled a locksmith, then drafted the notice of lock change for security my attorney gave me. It offers supervised entry windows and a phone number for scheduling. Boring, generous, enforceable. I also created an estate asset file with a bank that offers simple estate hold accounts. It can't receive rent or pay vendors yet. It can receive insurance checks if a pipe breaks. The banker asked for proof I'm a named beneficiary/executor or at least an heir with a dispute on title. I gave him the will abstract and the recorder alert. He put a note. Hold until letters of administration or court direction. Adulting feels like this. Paper stacked under nobody's favorite word. Pending. With the paper moving, I handled the people. I sent a group email to Lydia, Mark, and my mother with the subject inventory and temporary security measures. The body included 1. A calm paragraph about protecting the estate. 2. A simple inventory spreadsheet link, view only, with tabs for personal effects, community household goods, and special heirlooms to verify. 3. The notice of lock change for security with 2 supervised entry windows. 4. And my promise to share updates as the recorder indexed my affidavit. Within minutes, Lydia called to perform compassion. "Sweetheart, this is so bureaucratic," she said. "Your grandmother hated forms. She did not. Let's do the clearing day. Then we'll sit with tea and go over your little notices." I told her the notices were not little and the tea could wait. She pivoted to guilt. "Mark has already taken time off and hired a truck. You're punishing him for being helpful." I told her the truck could help return anything that had already walked, because nothing leaves until title is clear. Mark texted a video of the empty back of a rental truck with party music over it and "Let's go" in glitter font. I didn't respond. Jade did, from her phone. "Inventory first." He replied, "Who dis?" The mobile notary wrote one more time, and this email is the closest thing to a smoking ember I have. I was referred by a family friend and met signer at her residence. One witness was a relative who stated he was just the ride. If the witness is also the grantee, it's not automatically illegal everywhere, but it is the opposite of clean. I asked again for the witnesses' printed names. She went quiet. I forwarded the exchange to the real estate fraud unit at the police department with my incident summary attached. A detective wrote back that he would swing by on the day of your scheduled clearing to prevent a breach of the peace if I wanted a presence. I wanted one. I recorded my affidavit of facts/notice of adverse claim. It was the driest thing I've ever written and maybe the bravest. It listed parcel number, my relationship to the decedent, the existence of a prior will, the suspicious deed details, misspelling, ID digit off, conflicting addresses, the facility letter, the notary's refusal to reveal witnesses, and the basic claim. Title to the property is disputed. No transfer or encumbrance should be completed until resolved through probate/quiet title. The clerk stamped it. The scan beeped. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in a month. That's when Lydia switched from velvet to vinegar. She posted in the family group chat that I was locking out kin and replacing love with paperwork. 2 aunts clicked heart. One cousin sent me a private message. I saw Mark loading Nana's sewing machine into the truck last night. I took a breath and replied to the group with one sentence. Please do not remove items. Inventory is underway. Supervised access windows are in your email. Then I called the cousin who DM'd and asked if she'd be willing to write what she saw in a simple statement. She said yes, with her name but not her address. Witness statement, cousin. Observed Mark and friend move sewing machine from house. Date approximate month. No inventory sheet posted. That afternoon I went to the house with Jade, posted the notice on the inside of the front door, and photographed it from 3 angles. We numbered rooms with sticky notes and stuck printed inventory in progress. Do not remove signs on the big-ticket items. I know signs don't stop bad actors. They stop the subsequent speech that starts with, "Oh, we didn't know." Jade labeled the drawers of Nana's secretary desk and tucked my grandmother's recipe card labeled lemon bars inside the one that holds warranties, like an anchor in case the sea tried to take the ship. The call that changed the temperature came from the title company. "We saw your affidavit hit the index," the risk officer said. "Per our internal procedures, we've placed a title hold on the parcel file. If anyone tries to open an order for a sale or mortgage, it will bounce to a human and then to you." In real words, no quiet paperwork in the night. Lydia must have felt the hold by osmosis. She called angry this time. "You're making it impossible to do anything the easy way," she said. "Correct," I said. She accused me of wanting to keep everything for myself. I told her the inventory includes her name next to anything she's been promised or that has provenance, and that probate will see that. She accused me of bringing strangers into family business. I said strangers like title officers and detectives keep families from breaking. She told me to meet her with the truck on clearing day and to be reasonable. I told her the detective would join us. I booked the locksmith and texted the supervised entry windows again. My attorney encouraged me to bring printed copies of the affidavit, the facility letter, the title email, and a 1-page summary timeline that even a person trying not to read would absorb. He said, "You don't need to prove a crime on the porch. You need to show enough paper that reasonable people accept the breaks." Then he said a sentence I've said to clients and needed to hear for myself. "Being calm is not being cruel." In the quiet between emails, I walked the house the way you walk through a dream you don't want to forget. The carpet still has a spot where Nana spilled tea and laughed about it for weeks. The wall calendar still has holidays circled in thick marker. The garden beds look like they're waiting. I'm not fighting for square footage. I'm fighting for the idea that a woman's promise about her own home doesn't get erased because someone can rent a truck and a stamp. So, here's the plan for clearing day, now that the paper is in place. Meet the locksmith. Change locks. Post notice. Keep the old cylinders bagged and labeled. Greet Lydia and Mark with the inventory sheet and the affidavit copy. Offer supervised access for personal items only. The title company rep will fax/confirm the hold to the venue. Yes, a fax. Their words. Detective will attend long enough to discourage yelling. If they insist on hauling, point to the notice and the detective. If they insist on signing something, hand them the attorney's card. Photograph everything. Who enters, what leaves, where it goes. Breathe, document, lock, leave. I'm ready for the chorus of cold and calculating. Paper remembers. People improvise. I'm choosing the thing my grandmother taught me in a kitchen that smelled like lemon bars and floor cleaner. Write it down, then do the next right boring step. Update 2. The locksmith arrived with a canvas bag that clinked like resolve. He laid out cylinders like chess pieces on the porch rail and worked with the quiet focus of someone who is paid to make panic optional. I photographed the old lock cores in a zip bag labeled with the address and the word retired. Inside the front door, the notice, inventory in progress / supervised access, only sat at eye level with the affidavit clipped below it. It looked bureaucratic. Felt like a spine. The detective from the fraud unit introduced himself in plain clothes, so the neighbors wouldn't feel like they were extras in a show. He stood to the side, not looming, and said he was here to prevent a breach of the peace and to take a card if anyone wanted to make statements. He asked for copies of my affidavit and the facility letter for his file. I handed them over with the calm of someone trying not to shake in front of a familiar house. The title company didn't send a person. They sent a fax and a call. The risk officer's voice came through my speakerphone, confirming hold in effect, no insurable transfer or encumbrance until cloud resolved. Inquiries will route to our legal. I put the phone on the console table so anyone could hear the grown-up words that mean not today. Lydia's truck rolled up like a personality. She climbed out in a coordinated outfit and sunglasses too large to be practical, with a clipboard that said she thought paper belonged to her. Mark hopped down from the passenger side in work gloves he'd never worn before, the tag still hanging from one loop. 2 friends trailed them, already scanning for heavy things to lift. "Sweetheart," Lydia said, drawing the word out like caramel. "We're going to get started. Where are the packing supplies?" "Inventory first," I said, and gestured to the spreadsheet printed on a clipboard of my own. "Supervised access only. Personal items by appointment. The notice explains it." She read one line, then skipped to performative injury. "You changed the locks. For security during probate," I said. "Keys are logged. You can enter with me for stipulated items." Mark clapped once like he was starting a meeting. "Let's be efficient, then. I'll take the sewing machine to keep it safe in my place. We'll circle back on paperwork after." "The sewing machine is listed and photographed," I said. "It remains until inventory completes and title resolves." Lydia's smile sharpened. "You don't get to make these rules." "I didn't," I said, and tapped the affidavit. "The county recorder did when they decided paper matters. The title company did when they placed a hold. The insurer did when they warned about unoccupied property. I'm following the rules." She clocked the detective like a chess piece she'd hoped not to see. "And you invited police to our family home?" "I asked for a peace officer to avoid escalation," I said. "This is a house, not a tug of war." She turned to the detective. "Officer, just here to keep everyone safe," he said, in the cordial tone of someone with infinite experience in front yard diplomacy. "If there's a civil dispute, the court sorts it out. Today we don't throw furniture into trucks." Mark pivoted to legalese he learned from television. "We have a deed. Recorded. We're acting under that authority." I pointed to the affidavit again. "And I recorded a notice that the deed is disputed. The title hold means you cannot sell or borrow against the house like it's clean. The estate is inventorying personal property. You can make a claim for specific items through probate." He tried swagger next. "You can't keep me from visiting my grandmother's home. I lived here as a kid." "You're welcome to visit," I said. "You're not welcome to remove property without inventory. That's not a feeling. That's a procedure." Lydia tried a new angle. "Nana told me she wanted Mark to have stability. She said you were busy with your career." "Then we'll let her paper talk," I said. "If the will or beneficiary designations say it's yours, I will respect that. If they don't, they don't." She lifted the affidavit like it might bite. "What is this even? Adverse claim? Cloud? You're making up weather to suit yourself." "It's a notice," the detective said, stepping in as the neutral narrator. It tells future buyers and lenders there's a dispute. It's not a judgment. It's a break. Mark yanked at a moving blanket. We're taking the piano, he announced to no one. He and his friend moved toward it with the confidence of people who mistake momentum for permission. Stop, the detective said, not loudly. They stopped. Read the paper. Lydia tried to shove past me with a box labeled kitchen, miscellaneous. I stepped in front of her without touching her. Supervised access for personal items only, I repeated. Medicines labeled heirlooms already assigned, immediate essentials. Not miscellaneous. Who made you doorman? She snapped. Nana, I said, when she raised the person who became this person. Jade, who had been silent and solid at my shoulder, spoke for the first time. We have a shared calendar, she told Lydia. Pick a time. We'll open drawers together. You can hold the inventory sheet if it helps. I don't need your friend's permission, Lydia said. She's not giving permission, I said. She's holding a pen. The detective, who had been letting us try civility like a sweater we might keep, addressed Lydia directly. Ma'am, the notice offers access by appointment. Today, large removals are not happening. Lydia looked ready to ignite. Mark tugged his gloves off hard enough to pop a seam. Then he tried the move that made the notary email click into place for me. Fine, he said. We'll just sign another deed with a notary everyone likes better. Please say that again, the detective said, his pen already out. I didn't mean, Mark started. Don't, Lydia hissed. I did not smile. I wrote said, sign another deed in my margin and underlined it once. Because this is not a movie. There was no abrupt confession. No producer stepping out from behind the hydrangea to yell cut. There was instead a long, sticky quiet broken by the fax tone from my phone and the venue manager's voice, reading the title company's hold confirmation again, because he'd promised he would. Lydia rolled her eyes like the paper offended her personally. Mark muttered about control freaks and gatekeepers. I held out the supervised access schedule. 2 windows, I said. Today and the weekend. 2 hours each with me present, 1 guest at a time. Bring a list of personal items you need. No furniture moves. If there's an emergency item outside those windows, email me and we'll add a slot. Lydia snatched the paper, glanced at it, and then aimed for performance. I am calling the notary, she declared, scrolling her phone. She stepped away to make the call and walked right into the sinkhole. Whoever she dialed said something that made her mouth go a flat line. She returned without the phone to say something about journals and privacy, and no need to escalate. The detective nodded like he'd heard precisely what he expected. One of Mark's friends, perhaps feeling the gravitational pull of reality, cleared his throat. Hey man, he said to Mark. This seems like not our fight. He gave me a quick, embarrassed nod and peeled away toward the truck. The other friend followed. The truck bed suddenly looked theatrical. We did the supervised access part. Lydia took Nana's silk scarf with her initials hand-stitched. A legitimate yours. I had no interest in grieving. Mark asked for a box of old-school trophies. I handed him the box like a museum docent. We logged each removal with a photo and a line item. No one touched the piano. When they had exhausted things with obvious claims, Lydia returned to the kitchen doorway and delivered a monologue for the audience in her head. You could have handled this with grace, she said. Your grandmother believed in family. You've replaced her with forms. She believed in lists, I said, and tapped the inventory. And in naming things so they wouldn't be stolen by the fog. Mark tried one more time. You think a judge is going to give you everything because you're good at spreadsheets? I think a judge is going to read, I said. And whatever the judge reads, I'll live with. Today, we're living with the rule that furniture doesn't load itself because someone brought a truck. Jade set the time for the next supervised window. The detective handed cards to both of them. If either of you believes a crime is happening, he said evenly, call this number and reference the report on file. Otherwise, work it out in probate. They left with their gloves and a scarf and a box of participation trophies. The truck door slammed. The street returned to itself. Inside, the house exhaled. The locksmith tightened one last plate and handed me 2 new keys labeled with a small tag that said the name of his shop. I put one key on my ring and the other in the safe envelope for the estate file. Then I did the least glamorous thing you can do after not losing a fight. I sat on the stoop and drank water. Later that day, the mobile notary sent me a final email. Notary email. After reviewing my journal, I cannot confirm the identities of the witnesses beyond initials. I cannot comment on the signer's physical condition. If served with a subpoena, I will provide records as required. I forwarded it to the detective and the title company. The risk officer replied, "Hold remains." By evening, Mark had posted a vague story about paper pushers who don't understand family. Lydia put up a captioned photo of Nana's scarf framed with "keeping her close." I didn't engage. The aunt who had DM'd me about the sewing machine sent a second note. "Thank you for not letting them strip the house." I told her I was just doing inventory the way Nana taught me. Before I left, I walked through each room, reading the labels aloud like a devotion. Bedroom, dresser inventoried, hall closet, linens counted, study, desk logged, living room, piano, clock, sewing machine. Hold. The garden looked like a promise still intact. So that's the porch turned courtroom. No gavel, no gasps. Just paper doing what it does when people stop arguing long enough to let it speak. Final update. Quiet title/probate isn't television. There's folders, affidavits, and a judge who looks at all of it without blinking. My attorney filed a combined petition. Probate to open the estate and a quiet title claim to declare the transfer on death/quitclaim invalid. In regular words, please recognize Nana's actual chain of ownership and erase the smudge. We attached the same facts you've seen here. Affidavit/adverse claim, recorded and indexed. Facility letter placing Nana on premises the week of the alleged signing. In notary emails/journal, redacted. Showing witness initials only and a misspelled middle name. Refusal to identify witnesses without a subpoena. A county recorder chain, with the parcel number transposition and Lydia's number in return to. A metadata snapshot, explained in plain language as scan timing, not signature timing. Inventory photos/logs to show we weren't looting under cover of righteousness. The judge didn't care about social media fog or who cried harder. He cared that the notary journal was incomplete and that a supposed witness looked uncomfortably like the grantee. He cared that the elder facility letter contradicted the private residence story. He cared that the notary could not, even under subpoena, produce the witnesses' names until she checked records, which arrived as first names without contact info. He didn't call anyone a liar. He called the deed unreliable. The order that followed was small, square, and everything. The deed was declared void/voidable as a transfer. Title was quieted to the estate. I was appointed personal representative. The recorder was directed to index the order. The title company could lift its hold once the order posted. Inhuman. The house belonged to Nana's estate the way it was supposed to, and we would distribute according to her will, not according to who rented a truck first. What happened to Lydia and Mark? Not a movie ending. The judge didn't thunder. He issued a sanction against Lydia for improper attempted removal of estate property and ordered restitution for my filing fees connected to the quiet title piece. He told Mark to return anything not on the supervised log. The sewing machine came back the next supervised window, quieter than it left. The detective filed his report with the real estate fraud unit. The DA took a pass on felony charges, not shocking. But a civil agreement went on paper. No more filings against the parcel. No more attempts to move big items. Costs refunded if they violate. The notary referred to the state commissioning office. Months later, I got a bland letter. Administrative action for journal deficiencies and identity procedures. Fine. Remedial training. Not revenge. Maintenance. The title company sent a short email that read like a sigh. Title release. Court order indexed. Cloud cleared. Hold lifted. The risk officer added a PS. They were adopting a template like my affidavit for future consumer alerts. If you ever wonder whether boring bravery matters. Someone printed my paragraph and put it in a binder. Estate work is less about triumph than chores. I paid the property taxes, updated the unoccupied home endorsement on insurance, and hired a roofer to replace shingles the wind had argued with for years. I learned where the main water shutoff lives and how old wiring hums when it's tired. I kept the inventory updated and then did the most ordinary sacred thing. I sat at Nana's table and sorted recipe cards into keep and share. The lemon bars stayed, of course. Family didn't become a postcard. I set low contact with Lydia. Everything in writing. Supervised entry for items with provenance. Neutral pickup spot for anything the will specifically names for her. A locket, a quilt. When she tried to test the boundary with a quick swing by, I replied with the supervised calendar link and the phrase no unscheduled access. Mark posted a few more ambient comments about paper people. I didn't reply. 2 cousins who had watched quietly texted thanks for not letting the house become a story we whisper about forever. I told them I didn't save a house. I saved the part of us that believes a woman's list counts. The will, when read, was not dramatic. It matched what Nana said in the kitchen. The house to me, with small bequests of specific items to others. I followed it. The scarf Lydia framed? Hers per the will. The piano? Mine, with a note in Nana's handwriting. Play it or let someone who loves it more. I'm taking lessons. I'm terrible. The bench squeaks. It feels like telling the truth out loud. A few practical answers since people ask. Did I sue for damages? No. The court fees were covered by the sanction. The rest would have been an energy tax I couldn't afford. The order protecting title and the estate was the win. Did the police charge anyone? Administrative consequences for the notary. A civil agreement and paper trail for Lydia/Mark. A warning that grows teeth if they try again. It's not cinematic. It works. Did we reconcile? We stabilized. That's different. I'll be polite at funerals and firm at doors. The house is not a trophy. It's a responsibility with floors. I changed the locks for safety, then I changed the smoke detectors for the same reason. I planted azaleas in the bed that looks tired, because Nana liked them bossy. Sometimes I sleep there, sometimes I don't. When I do, I leave the porch light on only at night. What did the process teach me that might help you if you're reading this with a knot in your throat? That paper is not the enemy of love. It's the brace that keeps love from collapsing under weight. That saying no in writing is kinder than saying maybe out loud and then cleaning up the mess. That a judge with a neutral face can honor a woman you miss more than language will let you say. That being calm is not being cruel. It is choosing not to match chaos's volume. I kept 1 page from the quiet title order on the fridge behind a magnet shaped like a tomato. It's not there to gloat. It's a reminder that Nana's sentence, paper remembers, wasn't nostalgia. It was a plan.